Today we continue Independent TTRPG month. We take a look at the Index Card RPG Think Deck by Runehammer Games.
Hey there, it's DM Zoth. Go ahead and hit the subscribe button so you know when we upload new videos. Alright, here it is. The well-used and loved Index Card RPG Think Deck.
Yeah, in all of its used glory. I got this a couple years ago off of Drive-Thru RPG. I think I got it for like 10 or 11 bucks. I think it's going for $12.50 or something. And it comes with not only the deck, but also a PDF that kind of explains Runehammer or Hankerin's ideas about how to use the Think Deck.
All right, let's get into it.
Okay, here we go. You can see that there are a bunch of different sort of suits and different titles on each, like Lesser Foe, Revelation, a Doorway, Greater Obstacle, Lesser Obstacle, Deadly Peril, Lesser Foe, Trickster Foe, and every once in a while you see this these numbered ones that become kind of the difficulty for the area, the room, the encounter. And these guys are things that happen in this many rounds, which is fun. Instead of rolling a die, it becomes a timer in a card form. So instead of rolling and getting a 1, here's a timer for 2.
And it looks like there's different suits, like a regular deck of cards.
Diamonds, clubs, here's the spades, hearts. Here we go.
And he talks about how you ask a question, kind of like if you were to go to a tarot card reading.
Yeah, so you have a question in mind, and you can put out these cards, and it will give you kind of an idea. Hence the name of the cards, an idea think deck. So you go ahead and flip one over. Here's allies. Here's another allies. Here's a roleplay foe. And here's a long range. Now, he does differentiate between being right side up or upside down and how you can interpret those cards differently.
Kind of like how they do with tarot cards.
Yeah, that's right. It could be either an opposite sort of interpretation, or if it says something like long range, it's actually short range.
So what does he mean by these different things?
So like, for instance, this card right here says long range. He says in the PDF, this abstract card suggests a chase, long voyage, or battle with ranged weaponry. Spread everything out and force the heroes to cope, so on and so forth. And if you're reading upside down, you might read this as a short range thing. And so basically everything's kind of in the opposite. This is not just for Index Card RPG, but let's move on. The roleplay foe, he says, at a high level of play, combat and danger are just as exciting as conversation, negotiation, and persuasion. So this is someone that is someone that you talk to, that's their main thing.
So he also has, like, for instance, each one of these suits has a different idea associated with them.
Yeah, so the clubs are the suit that represents simplicity, brutishness, animals, natural elements, or blunt force. The spade represents mind poison, death and undeath, treachery, hatred, rage, and chaotic evil. Hearts is the suit that is a call to goodness, romance, trust, and life energy. And the diamonds are the suit that represent the elite. Let me... Since I don't have a diamond represented here, let me grab one. So here's one. We'll just get rid of this one. This one represents the elite. I'm going to throw down a different spade here, take away this other ally since we have 2. So this is not only a supreme foe, this is like a world-ending supreme foe. That's one way to interpret it. Or if you've got not world-ending things going on in your campaign.
And in smaller campaigns, that might represent like just your BBEG of your game in general.
A perfect interpretation. I was going to talk about how I used this. Now, he goes into a lot of awesome things about these cards in the PDF, and I'm not going to go into a lot of that. But what really spurred me on to want to take a look at this and review it was the way that I use this. I didn't have enough time for notes.
Oh yeah, I've been there before.
And I sit down to the game and I'm like, I don't know where the fuck we're going tonight. And that's what I did literally on my last session.
So you had to use this to kind of dig your ass out of a hole.
Yeah, but what's great about this is that I like to be kind of moving on the cuff anyways. I like when surprises happen. I don't want to come to the game knowing exactly what encounters are planned out anyways. I'll make little notes, and yes, I do plan certain sessions, but I like the spontaneity of just discovering what's happening along with the players.
That's a very loose way of playing, and you really have to be good at improvisation.
Yeah, and so that's kind of where I come at it. Dungeons and Dragons is the thing that taught me about improvisation. Being a musician also has taught me about improvisation. I'm also an actor and in the entertainment industry, and my push is always about improvisation. So I'm living and breathing this.
So how you're using this deck may not be for everyone.
Absolutely. Let me give you a breakdown where I was last week. Didn't know what was going on. These were the cards that I drew, and I will flip them over as we get to them. And I flipped these over as we went.
So you didn't flop these out all at once?
No, sometimes I do that so that I know where we're ending up, but I really wanted to be surprised. I was like, hey, if I'm unprepared, then I want to be just as surprised as the players.
And so were you?
Absolutely. So we've got this campaign, and right now my players were in the midst of, they were in this forest, and there was this dragon that was impaled in this tree. And so this tree had grown through it and all this. It was kind of a grotesque sight. But for hundreds, maybe even 1,000 years, this dragon had been stuck here in this wood. And they had already dealt with a little battle, not against the dragon, but against other foes that had come up. And I was like, okay, where are we going to go from here? It was the aftermath, and I was like, what's going on? The first card I flip over is, and it was actually right side up, is allies. I didn't use what the suit was because the suit would be, maybe some chipmunks arrive or a bear or something and that becomes your ally. But I was like, no, this just totally makes sense for this dragon to become the ally. And they played it out, and the witch character, yes, we play with a witch class in our game, did this wonderful ritual along with this druid-like character, and they were able to free this dragon. The next card, while this was happening, that I drew was this 15.
So it ended up having a pretty high difficulty, 15 or above, to make successes on things.
Yeah, but it really didn't matter because they ended up rolling a natural 20, and so these amazing things were happening in game. So I was discovering all of this as it was happening, and this dragon, even though they are attached to this forest, was able to move with them through the forest and deal with different things that were going on. Next, came across this card. Greater Obstacle. Again, I guess I just kind of skip over the suits. You don't have to do that. But I didn't need that theme. I really was just looking for the descriptor here. What is going on?
So there was a greater obstacle. What was it?
I had different things, like there was a chasm for them to go across, a fissure that was in the land that they needed to get across and figure out how to do that. There was different sort of terrain things that they had to overcome. And I think I threw at them like maybe 3 or 4 because they had a distance to go. They were heading towards a town.
Very good.
So I flipped over another card on my side of the screen, mind you. I'm not doing this in front of everyone. And it was a role play foe. I just, on the spot, was like, it's a hag, like a snow hag of sorts. And she's got a huge army, like a battalion of ghosts that are behind her. And they ended up having this really awesome impromptu confrontation with this thing that they had to figure out how to get past, etc. I wouldn't have come up with that. Basically, I could have just said they do the long range or they get past the greater obstacles and you see the town on the other end of that. And that's completely fine because it's all improv.
And so you were just like, what else is going on here? Flip over a card and you get a role play foe.
Yeah, something that is not necessarily there just for battle, but they kind of wanted to mess with the players.
And so you came up with this hag.
Yeah, and it ended up being awesome. A really iconic character now that we've played through it that they know is in this forest that I had no clue was in that forest, which is the beauty of improvising, especially when you're not doing it off your own head. You're getting the inspiration from these cards, and then you still have to do the work in your head and move forward.
Very cool.
And then at the end of it, I had pulled this card, Lesser Foe. And I think it was upside down, but I just interpreted, I didn't want to do the upside down thing, so I was just like, Lesser Foe. So when the group had come to this town, they had inquired about things that were going on there. So the town guard had told them about a hated group of cultists that the party had been dealing with for quite some time. For many, many different sessions. It's actually a bunch of goblins that are worshiping a god called Tharganuth, and they just took over this old temple that happened to be dedicated to one of the characters' gods that they had interactions with and were following. And so they were immediately triggered. They all go in there, and they have this final little battle that didn't take too long. They wiped these things out, a troll and a bunch of goblins and one hobgoblin, and even the witch was able to charm the owlbear that they had captive.
So it ended up being awesome.
Yeah, and I had no clue where we were going, and thanks to the index card RPG Think Deck, I was able to use these prompts that I didn't know about beforehand and come up with this awesome adventure on the fly.
And it was a real collaborative session.
Yeah, as I like to make most of my sessions anyways. Out of all the supplements that I have purchased in the last couple years, the one that has been the most helpful to me, beyond a shadow of a doubt, is the index card RPG Think Deck.
Yeah, it seems like everybody should go out and get this.
Yeah, and especially for the price. I mean, for crying out loud, you get a deck of cards, you get the PDF, and it teaches you how to use them in many different facets. I think the index card RPG Think Deck is worth its weight in gold for as much inspiration, especially on the fly, that it has given me in my games.
Yeah, go out and get it. There's a link in the dungeon below, and go and support Runehammer Games.
Hanker Infernail over there is just so plugged in with the RPG community and just wants to make great games. All right, that just about does it for us. Hey, we've got links down in the dungeon as well where Agranak Studio's at.
Yeah, we've got a Patreon page, and we've got one Patreon supporter. Thank you.
And we're on Instagram. We've got our own website and all that. We're on DriveThruRPG with our own products. Check it out below. Thank you for stopping by Agranak Studios, and we'll see you on the next one.
Later. All right, do this and do that and do this and do that. And watch this video.